camera, welcome to A Skeptic Moment. On a recent episode of the Bravo Channel's Inside the Actor's Studio, George Carlin, the comedian, was asked a question from the audience about why he's so cynical of the human race. He thinks we're going to destroy ourselves because we're not capable of making it on our own.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, as somebody who still clearly very much enjoys life, enjoys living life, and enjoys doing what you do, what kinds of things still give you hope?
I look at it and I think, wow, I hope I live long enough to watch it all collapse, just for the fun of it. I hope we're interfered with again by the extraterrestrials, and this time they help, you know, in a big way. This time they say, we're going to do another genetic thing. We're going to do it just like we did when we brought you people. Suddenly you had architecture. Suddenly you could lift stones up and build a pyramid. Suddenly you had mathematics. Suddenly you had all these things. You never had them. Suddenly they appeared. We're going to do that again, and this time we're going to help you folks again. I hope that happens, because then all those dreams that I don't quite have for us could come true, and that would be the best surprise I could get.
Huh? This is George Carlin in an interview, not while doing stand-up. He's serious here. Carlin seems to be saying that if it were not for the aliens passing on advanced ideas to ancient man, we would probably not have made it this far by ourselves. Now, there's only one place Carlin could have come up with these ideas, other than maybe pseudo-documentaries and listening to Art Bell's late-night radio program. It all started in the 1970s when Chariots of the Gods aired. That was created by Erich von Däniken. Maybe Carlin's belief that mathematics suddenly appeared could be to, say, coincidence of how the number pi is found when measuring the pyramids. Pi, that's 3.14159, is the number of times the diameter of a circle can make it around the circumference of that same circle, regardless of the size of the circle. The circumference will always be 3.1459 times the diameter. Von Däniken's claim about pi is how ancient man knew it back then is wrong. Pi showing up in measurements is not a big deal, it's only coincidence, but von Däniken lies to us and tells us it's a big deal. So did mathematics suddenly appear as George Carlin seems to believe? Well, here's a quick history of the mathematics. You decide if mathematics suddenly appeared. 30,000 years ago, humans first recorded numbers on bones. 25,000 years ago, geometric designs were used. A decimal number system was used 7,000 years ago in Egypt. The Babylonians and the Egyptians used calendars 6,000 years ago. First symbols of numbers were used in Egypt 5,400 years ago. 5,000 years ago, the Babylonians began using the numbering system for recording financial transactions. 4,000 years ago, the Babylonians used multiplication tables. 2,500 years ago, geometry was used to solve problems such as calculating the heights of the pyramids and the distance of ships from around the shore. Around the same time, counting rods were used in China, and the Babylonians began using number systems to record and predict the positions of the sun, moon, and planets. George Carlin also says early man suddenly could lift up stones to build the pyramids. He thinks space aliens gave us the ability. The fact is, you don't need help of space aliens to build a pyramid. All it takes is a lot of time, manpower, and a few oxen. Slipways were made with mud and water so heavy boulders could move quicker and easier. Rollers also used. 8 men can handle a 2.5-ton block. 2 million blocks moved over a period of 20 years with 8 to a block is about 20 blocks an hour. To build a pyramid would take about 300 people to move the 2 million blocks needed. That's one pyramid in 20 years. If space aliens helped ancient man build the pyramids, how come it took so long? And why were there so many trial and error pyramids, the ones the ancient man learned their mistakes from after they collapsed? Some were too tall or just the wrong materials to hold their own weight. And guess what? When they collapsed, the walls were at the same angle as the successful pyramids are today, the ones they finally end up with, the plan that finally worked after trial and error. The same angle, that's the same angle that mountains or a pile of dirt is, that is in the collapsed state. Mountains are in a collapsed state. Although the outer walls of the pyramid are flat, that angle of the walls are that of a fallen down pile. The pull of gravity on Earth decides the angle of the piles of the walls. On Mars, where gravity is much less, a pile would have probably a greater angle and be taller. Some of the mountains on Mars make Mount Everest look like Seattle's Queen Anne Hill in comparison. Von Däniken has convinced others, yet he has no credibility. The history, art, and societies of ancient cultures were not introduced by space aliens. Ancient man did a fine job without any help of anybody else. But Von Däniken has resorted to lying. An example of a lie, he claimed one of his photos was of an ancient pot, and on that pot you could see a flying saucer. Well, it turns out the potter who made that pot was still living down the street. When Von Däniken was confronted with his lie, he says he had to deceive people because that's the only way some people would believe him. Oh, okay, now I believe him.